Hello and welcome to A Book in 5 Minutes. I'm Lindsay Milner. This week I'm looking at a book called Radical Acceptance and it's by Tara Brach. It is subtitled Awakening the Love That Heals Fear and Shame. So I was interested to read this because what I'm going to focus on for my dissertation, which is coming up this summer, is on self-acceptance. So this book seemed like it would be something that was worth investigating. She starts off talking about the trance of unworthiness, how a lot of us feel, and she describes some of it as her experience, how she feels that she's not good enough, she's unworthy. People embarking on one self-improvement project after another, yet guilty. So she talks about how this affects us and how we feel unworthy. We get lost in the stories that we tell ourselves and lose touch with our actual experience. And I thought this was kind of interesting given that I've just reviewed The Stories We Live By and The Dreaming Path, which is also focused very much on stories. She says that we need to let go of the stories that we tell ourselves that we're not good enough. And obviously I would agree with that. We can get rid of those stories, but to me, I think we need to replace them with better stories. Whereas what she's actually saying is that acceptance doesn't imply an acceptance of the self. It's almost as if the self doesn't really well, it's not almost as if, she pretty much says that the self doesn't actually exist. There's no such thing as the self. And radical acceptance doesn't imply an acceptance of the self. So I found this book challenging. It's rooted in Buddhist teachings, and some of it's highly spiritual as a result. And it didn't feel accessible to me. I struggle with this idea that there's no such thing as the self. But that being said, there is some information in the book that I did think was useful. She talks about learning to pause, so whether that's pausing before we react, whether that's pausing before we make a major decision, or whether that's pausing before moving on with the next stage of our lives, taking some time out before progressing with our life. She mentions mindfulness practices of noting and naming, which I think are useful, a way of noticing what's going on rather than actually reacting to what's going on. She's got chapters in here on desire and fear, how to deal with fear, and how to develop compassion, including self-compassion. Although if she doesn't agree with herself, I don't know that self-compassion is probably the right word to use. There's meditations in here as well. There are scripted meditations to deal with different types of scenarios, different types of situations. So overall, I'm not really sure how I feel about this book. As I say, I found it a challenging read. I couldn't read it from beginning to end. I left it, went to something else, came back, read a bit more, left it again. I just found it quite a difficult read, challenging in terms of the ideas, but also challenging in terms of the actual read of it. It wasn't as readable as some of the other things that I've been reading just lately. And like Dan Harris, I think I'm drawn to the idea of mindfulness and meditation, but not really fully on board with the whole Buddhism as a concept. So I don't know, maybe that says something about me, that I'm not open to the idea of Buddhism. I don't know. But I think if you want to develop your acceptance, there might be some stuff in here that's helpful. I haven't majorly found it useful, but then obviously I do need to practice my mindfulness and meditation in order to develop that concept. If you're interested in Buddhism as a whole, then I do think there's, maybe it is the book for you. So those are my thoughts on Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach, and as I say, subtitled Awakening the Love That Heals Fear and Shame. That's this week's book. Let me know, have you read it? What do you think of Buddhism? I'd love to see your comments. That's it for today. I will see you next time. Bye.